Well, graduation season is here, and it is an exciting time for a lot of people, including Lee, whose daughter graduates this weekend. We're going to talk about not only what are we celebrating with the graduates and the new life that's ahead of them, but what can we do in order to help them on the financial side? What lessons can we teach them? What foundation can we lay now as they go off on their own? We'll talk about that coming up next here with Lee.
Welcome to the My Retirement Clarity Podcast, where our goal is simple, to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. The team at Perkins Wealth Management does this by helping good people make great decisions so they can enjoy an amazing retirement. And now, here's your host and financial advisor, Lee Perkins.
Welcome in. This is My Retirement Clarity. I am Ben George. He's Lee Perkins, owner and financial advisor over at Perkins Wealth Management. And Lee, big week for you. Graduate coming up this weekend. How you feeling?
You know, I guess I would say mixed emotions is kind of where, really for my wife and I, we will be empty nesters at some point when my daughter goes off to college later on towards the end of the summer, first part of the fall. So that's a little bit exciting for us. But on the other hand, a little bit sad that my daughter is graduating from high school. That happens this Saturday night. And so we're kind of run the gamut of emotions. We've done every activity that has been put on our calendar. We have another one on Thursday night, senior honors night, and then it will culminate with graduation Saturday, and then a big graduation party at our house Saturday afternoon. So it'll be fun. It's supposed to be 100 people in there, so it's not just for my daughter, but for a friend of hers as well. So change is coming.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. What's her plan?
She plans to go to Georgia Southern in Statesboro, which is where my son goes, where Walker goes. Nice. So, it'll be nice to have them down there for 1 year together before he graduates.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, congratulations to you guys. I know this is an exciting time for everyone, so hopefully you're able to enjoy that this weekend. And I know today's conversation is probably more geared towards college graduates and high school graduates, but it's never too early to start building these good financial habits, which we'll talk about today. And if you have any questions for Lee as we go through our episode, or anything's on your mind, or you just want to begin planning, 478-254-3550 is the phone number. But the easiest thing to do, you can schedule a meeting right now by going to talkwithjlp.com. Again, talkwithjlp.com. So again, this is the idea of being, you're going off on your own, and now really it's exciting because you got a paycheck oftentimes as a college graduate coming in now, and you got a little bit of money. You're excited to have that freedom. But this is a great time to establish some habits because it can really set you up over the course of your life if you do it the right way.
Yeah, it really can. And this is a really cool episode for me because I met with the daughter of a client of ours, I guess last week. She's graduating from college, and she's actually taking her first job in in Alaska, long way away from Georgia. Wow. But so I really almost had, like what we're going to talk about here on the podcast today, I almost discussed most of these things with her and her mom, of course, last week. And it was a lot of fun. We typically don't, meet with people who are 23, 24 years old because it's not the people that we serve. But boy, I really enjoy it when we get to talk with kids of our clients and sort of put them in the right direction. So yeah, this will be a fun conversation, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it'll be helpful for anyone that has a graduate or knows a graduate because we really just want to provide some practical ways you can help them make some smart financial decisions early and some actions that can help them have a lasting impact on their future. And it all begins, Lee, with saving and investing. I think it's the simplest principle. I think we're all aware of it, but I think creating these early saving habits, and I think just teaching about how to invest is probably the most important thing, just having that literacy.
Yeah, and so that was one of the main concerns of this person was, hey, what do I need to do when I start making money and I've got a little bit of extra money that I can invest? So there is sort of an order to do everything, and I'm going to try not to turn this into a Dave Ramsey episode, but that guy's got it figured out on some of the basics of finance, just personal finance in general. But my client's daughter here was really interested in, hey, what do I need to do from an investment standpoint? And I guess my main thing for her was it's not about what you invest in, It's more about that you invest and how much you do it, and the frequency, and just the automatic investing automatically, so you're not having to think about doing it every month. And so, because she's young, and this girl is 20, I think she may be 24. She's got her whole life ahead of her. Time is on her side. I told her it's not about investing in a hot stock, whether it's, young kids today, they all seem to want to invest in something more speculative, like Bitcoin or whatever it is. You can name the company there. And I told her it doesn't really matter what you invest in. Time is your greatest ally, because you've got years and years and years. And if she does that, she's going to have options when she's 50 years old that her mother doesn't have at 50 years old. Just because of the compounding, the power of compounding. And she's probably been taught that throughout her life. But I remember being that age, and I remember my parents telling me, hey, you should save some of your paycheck every single pay period, and you'll be rich one day. And of course, I didn't do that. I did what most kids do. I went out and bought a car and bought stuff and bought a house. But if you can get people saving early and investing early, that's a really good thing to do. We talked a little bit about her potential retirement account that she will establish there. And my advice to her was, hey, while you're right now, you're making as little money as you're ever going to make. Put those contributions in a Roth IRA. Go ahead and pay taxes on those dollars today, and let that money grow tax-free. And then she won't have to worry about taxes on that money in the future. So that's a really good thing to do. And I also encouraged her to not fall into the temptation of adjusting her lifestyle way too early. Make sure those savings dollars are very important, because it is. And you don't really know that at 24 years old. You know it at 44 years old.
Yeah.
You'd be like, man, I wish I could go back, tell my 24-year-old self that. But most our 24-year-old selves, we don't listen as much as we should.
No, we definitely don't. And I think a lot of times you put it off, Lee, just 'cause you're like, what is $50 going to make a difference? What's $75 mean for 20 years from now? But every little bit, if you can just put a little bit away, that just means so much long term.
Absolutely. That power of compounding and time, just put it into any kind of calculator. You don't have to put in some crazy high return. Just put consistent dollars in, put in a return, and watch that math work. It's crazy. Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. I wanted to tell you about our brand new book called Next Phase, How to Retire in a Year or Less Without Regrets. It's all about helping you prepare for the next phase of your life, whatever that looks like for you. So, if you're ready to make the most of your next phase, or if you're already retired and aren't sure you're doing all you can to get the most out of your retirement, then you'll want a copy of this book. All you have to do is text Next Phase to 478-475-2050, and we'll send you a copy right away. You can also access additional resources and register for one of our upcoming workshops at our website, www.myretirementclarity.com. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
All right, what about teaching the importance of an emergency fund? Again, this kind of goes back to the saving habits a little bit, but I guess most kids, Lee, I don't know if your kids fall in this boat, but the parents are usually the emergency fund, right? So it's a whole brand new idea trying to wrap your head around this.
That's exactly it. I think I am the emergency fund. I don't think I am. I know I am the emergency fund for both of my kids. But this girl she's got a really good head on her shoulders. She's already got some money saved. So several $1,000s she already has saved. And I told her the importance of the emergency fund, but also the importance of a trip/stuff fund. So I told her I want really her to split her savings account, split it into two savings accounts, one that is truly an emergency fund, one that is a trip or stuff fund, because I don't want her to just save all of her money for the future and not live today while she's young and able to do everything in the world. Live some, but save some, and there's a healthy balance. And for somebody that's in their mid-20s, early 20s like that, and they're getting started out, boy, a $10,000 emergency fund is the world to them. Now, it might take a long time to do that. This person won't have a $10,000 emergency fund, but I think maybe she had $5,000 to start off with. And I said, hey, put $2,500 in an emergency fund, $2,500 in a stuff fund, and then concentrate on max funding that emergency fund as much as you can until it gets to a level that you're comfortable with. And then you can fill up the trip or stuff fund. And I think she understands that, because if you don't have an emergency fund, what do? You borrow money, or you go into credit card debt, and that is not a good habit to get into when you're young.
Nope. So let's talk about credit card debt, because I think that's the next big lesson that you can teach a new graduate, because you do have to establish credit, Lee. I mean, it's important to do that early on, and there are different ways to do that, but it's also very easy to let that get out of hand, and nothing can really set you back financially more than piling up that credit card debt early in life.
Correct. I remember being a senior in college and going to Panama City on spring break. I don't know if I had $40 in my wallet, but I had a credit card that had a $500 limit on it.
Oh, man.
So before I left, I went and bought a $200 pair of Oakley sunglasses. Now, this was in 1993, so it was an expensive pair of sunglasses, because you had to have those for the beach, and then went down there and I rented a motorcycle. Didn't tell my parents, of course. And everything I did down there, I put on a credit card. So I maxed it out on a 5-day trip. That $500 that I spent, I paid for it over the next 2 years. Because I did minimum payments. There's no telling what those Oakley sunglasses and that motorcycle and the parasailing, there's no telling what I paid for all that stuff. So I learned kind of at an early age that I didn't want to do that again, but because I didn't have an emergency fund, I did that again. So you just have to be careful. If you use credit cards, don't abuse them. Pay them off every month. If you can't pay them off, you don't need a credit card, in my opinion. You just don't.
Yeah, even that $500 limit, we'll push it to as far as we can in many cases. So that's a great story. I can picture you with the Oakleys on the motorcycle heading down to PCB, Lee. That's a great
with no helmet. My mom would freak out if she knew that. That was back in the day what you did.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. All right, talking about some key things you can do for your new graduate, if you're a parent, grandparent, or just a friend that has a graduate in the family. This is a great opportunity to introduce some lessons, and basic budgeting principles, I think, is kind of the next thing, Lee. Paying yourself first and just really identifying your expenses every month and staying within that budget. So hard.
Yeah. So this, I mean, we're talking about college graduates, and this topic right here is one that I talk about every day in this office with people who are retired or almost retired. Track your spending. People have been living for 60, 65, 70 years. I would say a majority of people do not know exactly how much money that they spend. And so when we're doing a discovery meeting and we're asking for all this information, that is what they have the most difficult time putting their finger on. And I think that's because we never did it as a young kid. When money comes in and it just goes out. So kind of, going back to what Dave Ramsey said in his Total Money Makeover book, is if you spend your money on paper on purpose, that you basically tell your money where to go rather than wondering where it went. And so if you bring home $3,000 a month, then go ahead and allocate it. Pay yourself first and send money to your checking account that you're going to spend on whatever, and then sort of itemize where it's going. And if you do that, you'll develop good habits. And fortunately, most of our clients that once they've reached retirement, they have tracked their spending. If they've gotten used to living on less than they bring in, every month, then they don't really have to do a budget. And that's a good spot to be in. But for most people, it really makes sense to track that spending early on and just have a good handle on where your money's going.
Yeah, but no one wants to talk about a budget, but being able to kind of follow those principles and have that mindset, man, so beneficial if you can do it.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the lessons, some of the advice, I think, the foundational elements of being strong financially. Anybody can benefit from these, whether you're a high school graduate, college graduate, anybody. If you aren't doing these things, they can be very beneficial. But I want to kind of finish out by talking about some gift ideas for new graduates, Lee, because I think it's a great time to maybe help them financially. I think a lot of grandparents and parents want to do that. What are maybe some creative ways to make that happen?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of examples of this and how parents, grandparents help out new graduates. And lots of times, it could be something like a new car or something kind of a higher ticket item like that. That's still pretty frequently done. I do see parents help their kids with down payments on houses. Again, that's a little bit bigger of a bigger ticket item that you may not be willing to do. But boy, if you can do anything, help them max fund a Roth IRA early on while they're maybe getting their feet wet and figuring out their budgeting. If, stroke them a check for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, whatever you can afford for them to put in their Roth IRA, and then or maybe you say, hey, I'll give you $3,000 if you put $3,000 in it. If you can match it, tell them you'll match whatever they put in it, so that you're putting a bunch of money in it. That's a great gift to give. Another thing, like I was saying earlier in this show, is if you've got a financial advisor, that financial advisor should be willing to talk to your kids. So book a session with them, have them come in and just get some good advice. And obviously they should not charge them for that advice, because ultimately I do that for my clients' kids, because I want to have a relationship with those kids, because at some point the parents are going to pass away. And if I don't have a relationship with those kids, they're likely going to move that money away. And I want to help continue to guide them along that path. Other things like just cash gifts, to start an emergency fund, not necessarily for stuff, but to just give them some cushion while they're figuring things out. That's always a good thing. But I do like I like teaching my kids to fish. Let them pay for their cell phone bill. So take them off your cell phone plan, take them off, insurance if they can afford that. Give them some of that responsibility, and they'll be a higher functioning adult in society and better equipped to handle the things that come at us as we get older, because it doesn't get easier.
It certainly doesn't. And building these habits early on will pay dividends over time and make it a little bit easier to do these things the right way, or at least be aware of the actions you should be taking. So hopefully it's a time to celebrate it, and we know it is, and it's time to be proud. I know you are, Lee, as well, but also time to maybe try to do these things and provide some advice, some practical help for the future. And hopefully this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions for Lee, we'd love to hear from you. You can actually schedule a meeting with him right now at talkwithjlp.com. Again, talkwithjlp.com. You can also call the office as well at 478-254-3550. Lee, appreciate it. Have a great time this weekend, and congratulations again.
Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. Take care. Hey there, Lee Perkins here. If you're like a lot of folks, you've been listening to this podcast for a long time now, but I've got an important question for you. Have you implemented any of the ideas that we've discussed on the show? If you haven't, what are you waiting on? You know you're not getting any younger, so here's my challenge. Don't just consume the content. Our number one goal for this podcast is to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. So if you're ready to implement, take that first step today and visit www.talkwithjlp.com and schedule a 15-minute phone call with one of our advisors, and we'll help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement so you can enjoy the next phase of your life. Now is your time. Don't procrastinate any longer.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.